Everyone, welcome back to Placement Prep. Today we are going to discuss about the introduction part of MySQL. Before going to learn about MySQL, let's discuss what is data, what is database, what is DBMS and what is RDBMS. Starting with the data. Data is basically a collection of facts, figures and information. Now moving ahead to database. Database is the storehouse of data. It stores data in an arranged manner so that it can be easily accessible, easy to manage or maintain. Example is telephone directory. Now moving ahead to DBMS. DBMS stands for Database Management System. So basically it is a software that is used to store, manage and retrieve data in a database. Now moving ahead to the example, that is MySQL, Oracle, PostgreSQL and so on. Here MySQL comes into figure. So MySQL is basically a database management system or a software that is used to store data in an organized manner so that we can add new files, insert data, retrieve data, modify data, remove data and remove files easily. Now we will discuss about the advantage of DBMS. The first advantage is it control data redundancy. So what is redundancy? Let's take an example. Earlier, data are stored in file format. For example, this is one file that is account section and this is another file that is exam section. In the account section file, it stores the name of it stores student name, roll number, fees paid and fees dues. And in the exam section, it stored student name, roll number, branch and grades. Here in the account section also name and roll number is there, and in the exam section also name and roll numbers are there. So it leads to the wastage of space. Same data are getting repeated again and again in the file format. But in database it stores unique data and many users like user 1, user 2, user 3 or user 4 can have access to it. As a result, it controls data redundancy. There is no wastage of space. Now moving ahead to the second advantage of DBMS, that is it restricts unauthorized access. What is that? DBMS basically allows multiple users to share the common database. Take an example. Suppose it is a database of some confidential record. Suppose it is a database of the finance department of a company. Here everyone doesn't have the access privilege to update or retrieve data from the database. Only some people have the access to retrieve the data and some have the access to both retrieve and update data from the database. I hope you are clear about this point, that is restrict unauthorized access. Now moving ahead to the third feature, that is backup and recovery feature. Take an example. Suppose your computer crashes while doing some important transaction. Here the recovery feature ensures that the transaction resumes from where it has been interrupted or restored to the state where it was before the transaction. Now moving ahead to the fourth feature, that is multiple user interface. This is the most important feature of DBMS. Here DBMS allows multiple users to input query into the database without using the query language itself. Now users having different technical knowledge can have access to the database. It is not necessary to input query into the database with the query language itself. I hope you are clear about this fourth point. Now moving ahead to RDBMS. RDBMS stands for Relational Database Management System. It stores data in a structured format, that is in the form of rows and columns. So basically RDBMS stores data in tabular format. Now moving ahead to the features. The first feature is that stores data in tabular format, that in the form of rows and columns. Now moving ahead to the second feature, it has a primary key that uniquely identifies rows. Moving ahead to the third feature, that it has foreign key that is used to establish a link between two tables. And the fourth feature is it supports SQL. Let's discuss all these 3 points one by one. Because the first point we have understood, like it stores data in tabular format. Now let's start with the second, third and the fourth feature. Now starting with the primary key. So primary key is basically a key or a column that uniquely identifies elements of all rows of that particular column. Suppose in this customer table, this customer ID column is the primary key. See, here all the elements are unique. Starting with the first feature, that is it ensures all the values in the column is unique. Here all the values are unique and it shouldn't be a null value. Here none of the value is null. Now starting with the second feature, that is there can be only one primary key constraint per table. In one table there can be only one primary key. There cannot be two or three primary keys. I hope you are clear about the primary key constraint. Now starting with the foreign key, that is it is used to establish a link between two tables while joining it. That is, when we are joining two tables, this foreign key, that is this is one column that will establish a link between two tables. Joins we will further discuss in one more video. Now let's discuss about this foreign key. Suppose this is the customer table and this is the order table. There is different columns here like customer ID, state and age, and here order ID, date, customer ID and amount. And we want to join these two table, and in the customer table this customer ID column is the primary key, and in the order table the same customer ID column is the foreign key. You will think like that this is also the customer, like this is the customer information and this is the order information of that same customer. So why we are taking this customer ID as foreign key and this customer ID as primary key? We can interchange that. Why not so? Because when we will take this as primary key, here values are not unique. See, the same customer is taking two orders, like this is order ID 105 and the order ID 109. This can be the possible cases. So this column cust ID cannot be the primary key because here values are not unique. As values are unique here in customer information, we are writing the customer information of individual customer, and here all the values are unique. That's why this is the primary key. And when we are joining these two tables, this foreign key and primary key will establish a link between the two tables. I hope you are clear about primary key and foreign key. Now starting with the fourth feature of RDBMS, that is it supports SQL. So what is SQL? SQL is a structured query language. That is, it is a programming language that is specifically designed to work with the database. We can say that SQL is a programming language that is specifically designed to interact with the database so that we can create table in the database, or we can manipulate the table by inserting value in the table or updating value or deleting value, and we can have access on the database. Now moving ahead to the difference between SQL and MySQL. As I have already discussed, SQL is the programming language with the help of which we are interacting with the database. So what is MySQL? MySQL is basically a database management system that stores data in an organized manner. We can say that MySQL is a relational database management system that stores data in tabular format. And with the help of this query language, that is SQL, we are interacting with those data that are stored in tabular format. I hope you are clear about the SQL and MySQL. Let's take an example. Like in layman term, we can say that SQL is the bank employee and MySQL is the bank where our data are stored in an organized manner. For example, MySQL is the bank where our money are stored in organized manner so that it can be easy to manage. And with the help of this bank employee, that is SQL, we can interact with our data that are stored in an organized manner. Suppose we can update the data, for example, by adding money, or we can retrieve the data by deleting the money, and so on. I hope you are clear about this. If you like this video, please do subscribe to Placement Prep. Thank you. Have a good day.